Talking about the Lagos State electricity law, what are the investment opportunities for private sector? Hello and welcome to another episode of LCFE Market Plus. My name is Joy Osamudiame. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is LCFE Market Plus, and on set with me today is David Adonri. He is the CEO of HiCap Securities Limited and an aggregator on the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Joy. It's a pleasure being with you today.
Thank you for joining me. Now we're going to be discussing the mobilization of the private sector by the LCFE for the implementation of the Lagos State electricity law. Now let's talk about electricity, Mr. David.
Okay.
Why do you think electricity should be an investment for private sectors to be interested in?
First and foremost, the electric power industry occupies the commanding height of every economy. In fact, it's a major component of the engineering infrastructure that is required to sustain the productive momentum of every economy.
Okay.
So the other components of that infrastructure are the metallurgical industry, the energy industry, and of course the telecommunications industry. They constitute the heavy industrial base of an economy upon which the light industries rely for them to continue to remain in production. Then beyond that, electricity is so ubiquitous in its use and application. First, it's a major driver of industrial production, okay? Then second, as we're seeing now, is the major driver of electric vehicles. So it has even moved away from the industrial application now to the automobile industry. Of course, in every household without electricity, life is miserable. Nothing can be done. So when you have a commodity as ubiquitous and as basic in importance as electricity, of course, everything around it as a value product will result in profitability.
Now, I like the fact that you mentioned that in every home, electricity is important. And I have a report here that says that Lagos plans to increase power supply from 1,000 megawatts to 4,000 megawatts. Now, it's data security that there is going to be like a constant supply of electricity for homes. Does this law covers that?
No, you know, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And is that step that Lagos State government has taken via the Lagos Electricity Law of 2024, which is domesticating the federal law and then making it possible for the industry to flourish here in Lagos and ultimately meet the power demand of the Lagos economy and the residents of Lagos. So in doing that, under the law, Lagos State is going to act as the regulator, while the private sector will act as the operators. And this is the essence of this discussion and what is unfolding in Lagos State. Before now, electricity, which was under the exclusive list of the federal government, was financed and organized around the federal government, in which case capital that was formed in that particular sector was done by the public sector. So it was developed via public sector capital formation. But with the decentralization of electricity management in the country, and states now having the authority to produce and allow their people consume locally, then the good thing is Lagos State government has fashioned out implementing its program through the private sector.
Okay.
So in which case, the capital that is going to be formed now in the electricity industry in Lagos State will be private sector capital formation.
Okay, so that's making sense. Now, when you talk about private sector capital formation, what are the private sector companies that will say, okay, I want to invest in the Lagos State electricity law? Are they criterion to be eligible to register? I mean, to invest in this in the electricity law as a private sector?
Yeah, if you look at the Lagos State Electricity Law 2024, it sets forth the criteria in line with the federal government's electricity law, which President Tinubu signed. The bill which was signed by President Tinubu into law, I think it was last year or the previous year. Okay. Now, the law deals with the category of producers that can be regulated under the law.
Okay.
There are some producers. When I say producer, I know the generation of electricity. Those who generate, we call them producers.
Okay.
So those who generate, perhaps, I think, not beyond 100 kilowatts are not bound to be regulated by the law. But when you generate beyond that to probably about 1 megawatts of electricity, then you must meet the eligibility criteria set forth in the Lagos State electricity law for you to be able to generate electricity within the area of the jurisdiction of the law. Because as it is, there is a federal law that deals with interstate electricity administration.
Okay.
Then within a state, it is administered under the state's law. Okay. And Lagos State has blazed the trail by coming up, I think, with their own law, which along the line other states are going to emulate.
Now let's narrow down this discussion, Mr. David.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange.
Yeah.
When you talk about providing a safe, liquid, and viable investment for private sectors, what's the role of the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange on the Lagos State electricity law as an investment?
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange is a multi-asset commodities exchange. Okay. Handling a lot of assets in the commodities space. And good enough electricity as a commodity has been added to the assets under the activities of Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange. So, LCFE has emerged from what we have seen on ground as a platform for the mobilization of the entire private sector, not just in Nigeria, all across Nigeria and perhaps in the world, because the exchange, people have access to the exchange from all parts of the world, through technology and through the online trading of the
brokers.
So, as an exchange, the role that Lagos Futures Exchange will play, first and foremost, the major role is to mobilize the private sector to ensure that the plan of Lagos State is implemented through the efforts of the private sector. Now, in mobilizing the private sector to participate as operators in implementing the objectives of the plan, LCFE is going to play 3 roles. First and foremost, LCFE is going to provide the platform for spot and futures trading in electricity as a commodity.
Okay.
Okay, so if you have a spot market and then also a futures market, which is the primary activity of the exchange,
Okay.
then a major milestone would have been achieved with the exchange. Then secondly, the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange is going to provide a platform for capital raising.
Okay.
To enable those who want to be involved in the supply value chain of electricity to have access to capital, to be able to raise capital. So the exchange is going to provide that platform, to these, we call them issuers or fundraisers. We're able to raise funds that are adequate in type, adequate in volume, and also adequate in cost. Okay, that is the purpose of the exchange, so that the funding gap will be bridged through this commodities exchange. Then, of course, finally, in the course of raising capital and also serving as a futures market, some financial instruments will be generated, which will become available to investors both within the country and outside the country, for them to invest.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. David, I really wish we could have more on this show. Before we leave, I wanted to give a word to the private sector's investors about the opportunities that are embedded in the Lagos State Electricity Law on the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange platform. Just a word. What do you think?
The Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange is providing a viable platform, which the managing director had referred to as a deal room, to enable those who require funding to finance the production or generation of electricity. In fact, those who want to operate in the value chain from production to consumption, to actually assess their requirements via this commodities exchange. And then secondly, for investors, this is another viable investment outlet for investors, especially those who are interested in diversifying their portfolios of investment. Because if you invest in commodities, it has negative correlation with investments in the capital market or equities market. So for those who want to diversify their investment, of course, this electricity as a commodity is a viable investment outlet that I am sure at the end of the day will be safe, profitable, and liquid, for the investor. So I think, in summary, that is what I would say concerning this laudable Lagos electricity plan.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. David Adonri, for being on set with me today. It's such an honor talking with you.
It's a great pleasure indeed, Joy.
All right. So we have Rashida on set to give us the Commodities Index report. Hi, Rashida. How is market today?
Thank you, Joy. This is LCFE Commodities Index Update, and I am Rashida Taromanishe. The global commodities market went up slightly this week, with the LCFE Commodities Index rising by 1.71% to 101.5. All major sectors, agriculture, energy, and industrial metals, saw small increases, showing cautious confidence among traders. In agricultural commodities, orange juice had the biggest jump with a 23% rise, while rubber and sugar went down. Energy markets had mixed results, with propane and European gas prices falling. In metals, gold and silver gained as investors looked for safer options. A trader survey showed that 50% noticed price increases, with many expecting prices to go even higher next week due to seasonal changes and supply issues. However, uncertainty remains across the market. In Nigeria, local commodity prices also went up. Maize, cocoa beans, and soya beans oil increased, mostly because of strong demand and high transport costs. Palm oil prices stayed the same. For energy, crude oil and natural gas prices dropped, while gold continued to rise. So that's it for this week's report. I'm Rashida Taromonishe. Over to you now, Joy.
Alright, so that's all we can take on today's episode of the LCFE Market Plus. Do want to follow us on all our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Till I come your way next time, same time, do have a lovely week. Bye for now.